Welcome to another episode of In the Nude. Today I want to talk about a love story. I want to tell a story of a little girl who was alone and lost, born into a large family, who never knew how to be at home in her own skin, knew that the entire world was on eggshells, and that at any moment you could step the same way you stepped yesterday, but it would crack and shatter. Everything was careful and particular, and the way in which somebody regarded and entertained and engaged was highly dependent on mood and whim, that a hug could turn into a squeeze, a pinch. And in that tenuous situation, their stories were told. Truths, not truths, but taken as truths. Of worth, of value, of love, of affection, of strings. Of the broken ties of humanity, but within herself. And in the same way that she was treated and cared for, regarded and disregarded, seen as an item and property, seen as a whim and fancy for someone else, she saw herself. The lack of patience that was given externally, she felt within herself. The disregard shown and verbalized, repeated ad nauseum in her head. The lack of follow through, the gap, any denigration cycled and venerated into her soul. A parrot in her head on repeat. It's a battlefield, scars and worn, and one of a lifetime. But it need not be. It's a story most of us can relate to in some part or another. The love story is one of that girl learning to unfold the lies and drop the guise and the guard and the armor that were more briars than protection, that were more restraints and chokeholds than safety. It is the love story of her learning herself, of instead of returning to herself the same regard and behavior others did to her, finding the beauty in the mirror, stopping picking apart the visual that's there, and noticing the person, the soul, separating the them from the sack of bones and flesh, regarding that bag of bones and flesh and body parts as the means for the soul to carry about, to live, to be, to free, to feel. That's the love story. One of the hardest battles in this healing journey is within. It's transitioning from this battlefield of self to a lifelong love story with yourself. I went for a person who looked in the mirror and had a hard time maintaining eye contact because I didn't like anything I saw. I didn't like the features. I didn't like the compilation. I didn't like the attitude. I didn't like the failures. I didn't like the imperfection of lack of perfection. I looked in the mirror and it was as if I tore myself into pieces and parts, all shame and blame, all left wanting. I now look in the mirror and I can smirk at the girl that's there, at the life she survived and the thrive she's arrived. Not that arriving is ever a thing, but the existence in the moment is. It's a love story. And you're worth the effort of transitioning. You have the choice for yourself. We are stuck with the person in the mirror for the rest of our life, and they can be our enemy, they can be our battle, they can be our conflict, or they can be our companion, our best friend, our love story. I hear love stories now. I heard Stargazing by Miles, I can't remember his last name. And I hear the love stories, not as a plea or a contrive or a push towards finding this other person, but I hear it as a song to myself that I sing to myself. How I overlooked the beauty that was there. How I feel alive within myself at seeing now where I can stop and literally look in the mirror and think, wow, she's pretty. Wow. She has such a wonderful heart. I can look in the mirror and see those things, not because I have this extraordinary talent or not because I am this extraordinary anything, and except for the fact that I am for myself. Because I know what was and I know what is. Because I decided that I am my own ride or die. The way that I showed up and loved for and cared for those in which I felt the need to care for, whether it be a sibling, a partner, a friend. I turned that love inward. Through work, through arduence, through sitting in pain and uncomfort. I say this love story, I say this story of what was to what is, not because it's some magic fairy tale or some shake in the box 8-ball. I say it because I never thought I'd be a person who could look in the mirror and not only accept what was there, but appreciate it. I have been a person who grasped at control in my life through body dysmorphia and denigration and mastication, not mastication, sadomasochism, self-harm, you name it. And I can look in the mirror now and I can love what's there. No need for change, no need for tweak. Not saying there isn't room for improvement or adjustments or caring for this sack of bones better. But I can just see the soul behind. I can see it all. And in a world where I can go from where I was to where I am, I want to encourage you that you can sit there and you can choose the battle. It's your life, it's your choice, you can do it. But I challenge you, I ask you, in a world where you're writing your story, why not choose the heroine that you are? Why not choose the love story of epic proportions where you go from being your own villain to being your lifelong love? It's the stuff of romance novels, but within yourself, within this container that is how you go through life. What if that acceptance, appreciation, value that you've always wanted to have, you were able to give it to yourself? It sounds like a fairy tale. And it's one of the true fairy tales that actually exists. My life looks pretty similar to back when I hated myself. If you wrote it down and described it, it would look eerily identical. But everything about my life changed because of this journey to learn to be with myself, learn to care for myself, learn to show up fully. The onus of that for me was seeing the effects of empty, cavernous behavior and vacancy, and how I would never allow that to be an effect for my children because they didn't ask for it. That was my switch moment. It doesn't start as some type of easy, smooth journey. It isn't a 1, 2, 3. It isn't as simple as a math equation, but it is as beautiful as a waltz. It is as beautiful as the cacophony of a rainstorm and birds. The journey of falling in love with yourself is similar to that of falling in love with somebody else. It takes willing to listen, willing to be present, willing to have compassion and hear the story, hear the pains and the joys. Take interest in the observations and interests. That part is really hard, at least for me. So much of my life was pushing aside how I felt or what my body needed to be what I needed to be in that situation to survive. Slowing down enough and doing small things enough that I could hear when my body had an interest in going on a walk or randomly walking around TJ Maxx or Stopping some random person and telling them that their eyes are beautiful. Listening to the inner voice, the impulse that so much of my life was shamed for silly, waste of time, frivolous. Life is built for frivolity. It's built for sensory joy and just like existing and being in it. It isn't something I can give you a how-to. I can give you things that I did. I can give you things that worked. I can give you things that failed. But the main onus, the main difference is this like decision. It's people say to decide, right? Manifesting, decide. And it's infuriating when they say that, or at least it was for me, because how do you decide something, right? You can say, I decide, but there's this like, it's a switch, this click in. It's like, if you've ever been skiing, that where the boot locks into the ski, it's where the like buckle seeds into the base and you hear the click. There's this like, this part of it that there's this intangibility to this like locking in that decide is. But what did it look like for me to decide? It looked like me mentally making the choice and not locking in, but mentally making the choice of showing up in ways that I knew helped. I knew because other people said it, science said it otherwise. It meant taking a bath even though I didn't really want to. It meant feeding myself at least twice a day even if I didn't want to eat anything. It meant making sure that I ate for fuel even if I had no interest. It meant making myself go outside even if I didn't want to. It meant taking time to try to be present with my kids because it would both reward them and reward me. It was making all of these tiny decisions of actions, which led to more decisions of being able to see a need. Oh, there's a paying attention to like, there's a dryness in my throat and grabbing a drink. Getting these inklings of inclinations towards needs in the body. Water sounds really good right now. Do I want to drink it? No. Do I want to bath? No. What do I want? I want to step in a creek. And making a way for that to happen, or some facsimile of it. It's showing up and the way that you would, and say you have a crush on somebody and they're going to go on a trip. I'm pulling this as a tangible example I did once. I created a basket filled with favorite things, filled with a story told, unfolding over the hours of the drive, with notes to go alongside. It's the intentionality of heart and affection and paying attention that you can get a tiny thing, that you can leave a tiny note, literally or figuratively for yourself. It's showing up in the ways that mean something to you. Maybe for you, it isn't stuff like taking a shower and making sure you eat. Maybe that's not a thing for you. Maybe for you, it's deciding that you're going to clear the countertop even though you don't want to and you don't have the energy to. Maybe it's buying yourself that cute pillow. Maybe it's getting uncomfortable and reaching out to that friend you want to spend time with, but you also know it's going to be like work to get there and you kind of stall yourself out, but doing it anyway because you know at the end you're going to feel better. I don't know what it is for you. But it is in a beautiful choice that you can mentally make, that over the course of those actions, it moves from a choice and actions to a decision that locks in place. It's like falling in love with another person. You're on the path, and you might have this moment of realization of love, but it isn't like love just all of a sudden snapped in place. You had this journey, this path that led you to this moment of realization. And that's sometimes the decide. Some people have the gift to understand and know how to do that for themselves. I didn't. And so for me, it was the path to like falling in love, that moment where you realize that was my decide. Where you look over and you see the course of investment, you see and you have this affection. That is the decide. Where you have this aha moment where you look in the mirror and you don't say something or think something in your brain completely negative, and you have a neutral, you have a positive, you have a side. I challenge you to choose the love story and not the battle. You've been given the battle. You've been forced it upon you. And you've lived the battle. You know the ends. You know what happens. You know how it works. You could write that story with your eyes closed and your hands tied behind your back, pecking it with your nose on a keyboard. You know that story. But what if you took the challenge of writing the epic that is the love story with yourself? What if you chose today a small way to show up for you, to love you in a way that nobody else has, to decide that you're worth the energy and the work and the effort of getting to know, finding out who you are, and loving yourself exactly where you are? I have found the more that I can accept and love myself exactly where I am, without asides, without buts, without maybe this way, just exactly as messy and as shattered as it feels, exactly where I am. The more I can do that, the more the things that I would have previously said, please change, naturally do. Because those things you don't actually like about yourself, I'm going to give you a spoiler. They aren't mostly you. They're coping mechanisms that you dealt with. They are the voice of someone else perceiving the great gift you had that they saw as a threat and turned it to a negative. I am a person who feels so hard, like so hard. I get on a phone call with a person, and if I'm not careful, I will walk away the rest of the day having harnessed their feelings. I did it the other day. I was on the phone call with someone, and I was trying to help them with a situation. I was on it for a very long time. At the end, hours went by, and I was anxious and pent up and tight and closed. Oh, and I had no idea why. It took me hours because I didn't pay attention to why I was feeling it. And I have seen that as such a negative for so much of my life. And there are negatives to it, but it's also a beautiful gift. Imagine being able to go into a room and seeing the need immediately, viscerally, like it was your own, and knowing how to address it, knowing who to be, how to be. Imagine you might have that gift, and maybe even for the same reason. And I can see it and hate it. And I even do sometimes. But for every negative, for every quality that you feel like is a weakness, there's also the pendulum swing of gigantic strength that it is. Please choose the love story. You're worth your love story. It's an epic that I would love to read.